And, we got to reach herd immunity. We got to reach herd immunity with a injection that doesn't provide immunity or stop transmission. So
it's absolutely insane. Because again, if you're going to take the risk of having this thing in you, why are we not afterwards living like we've had the vaccine, therefore going back to normal? Do you understand? How can you take the vaccine and then you're still having to test yourself for the same thing you've just vaccinated yourself against? This is where it's got to. My mum works in the care industry, and that's what's happened with them. She's not taken hers, but everybody else in her place of work has. And even though they've taken it, they still have to test themselves twice a week. So it's completely illogical. Twice a week. Twice or 3 times a week. Twice or 3 times a week. After taking the vaccine. Yeah, after they've taken it. So this is where it's crazy. So the whole point is like, you can, if you've got any sort of common sense or your brain functions normally, it's not designed for anything to go back to normal. That's why they keep keeping the fear up, because they don't want it to go back to normal, because until they have their complete system in place, they're not going to let up. They have a plan and they're working towards their plan. And the plan is a complete regime change under the guise of public health security. So I don't understand how people can't see that, but I don't think they want to.
And how long have you been aware of this plan for?
Oh, God. It's just one of those things. When you're young and you see how this system works and you realize that it's wrong, you're already fully aware from then that there's something very wrong. Because just how you feel different to everyone else and just how other people are just willing to embrace this illusion of life, which has always been insanity masquerading as normality as far as I'm concerned. Do you understand? But insofar as what's been going on with the immediacy of what happened, like when they announced this this virus, I knew it was absolute rubbish as soon as they tried to say someone had eaten a bat in China in a certain right. As soon as they said someone had eaten a bat in China, and then within 2 weeks, the only answer to this is that they have to lock down the entire world, then I already knew, like, it's here. Because they've made anybody following this stuff, they've said for ages that they want to establish a new world order and want to change the system. And I've been aware that they've been trying to implement a financial crash because they want to reboot the financial system anyway. And this just levels the playing field and creates the foundation for all these things to take shape. So it was obvious. Because every single year there's a new virus. It would be H1N1, foot in mouth, SARS, MERS, Zika. They've always had something every year for the past 10 years of there being this new deadly virus that's going to kill everyone, and it never has. So if you've been paying attention to even that, you just know, when they announced it, I thought, no, people won't fall for this. Of course they won't. They won't be stupid enough to fall for it. Jesus Christ. People couldn't wait to bend over. They couldn't wait.
You had way too much faith in our humanity, and now they do literally bend over. I mean, well, if you're going into China, you do, because if you're going into China, you've got your mandatory anal swab.
This is what I mean. Just the way it just takes the mick out of people, where literally they are bending over and they're having something shoved in their hoop to test them for a virus that you can spread apparently with a water droplet from your mouth. It's just crazy, but it is what it is.
Do they test the wastewater in the UK? Because in Australia, every other week, the media is like, oh, these suburbs in Melbourne are on high alert because we've found fragments of coronavirus in the shit water.
No. Well, I think they did announce that on the news, I think. But because they have to keep testing it, because they keep putting out this incredible news. And they have to test people's response, because sometimes the news is too much, where it does wake a few people up. So as soon as they put it out and they get the response of people saying, this is absolute crap, this is rubbish, they'll pull it and they'll stop it. But then you just start to realize that most people have just got the memory of a goldfish. Do you understand? They simply just take the news at face value for that moment, and then it's gone. So when you try to remind them of things that have preceded the news that they've already had, which contradicts it, they can't remember it. They can't put it together in their head. So they can't ever understand that it's all a process of perception management. They just don't. As soon as they hear the news on that moment in that day, that's what's going on in the world for them, and then they change their lives accordingly. I'm like, well,
Yeah.
it's up to them.
And when they get presented with information that might prove somebody right, that they turn away or they don't care. So one of the earliest things I spoke up on about in the beginning of this whole charade was in Melbourne, when I discovered, okay, they're reclassifying aged care deaths as coronavirus deaths. And so I started speaking up about that, and I was apparently very insensitive because people were dying. And a year later, they finally start publishing stories about, oh, my mum's birth certificate got changed to COVID and she died of terminal cancer in palliative care. And, this starts coming out in the mainstream media, and you're like, hey, I was telling you that a year ago. They're like, okay, so what? Who cares?
Yeah. But it's like, because their entire identity and their perception of the world is just hinged on the information that they're told in any given moment. It's like, as it falls away, they grab onto the next narrative that's disseminated to them by the same authority subjecting them to this whole charade, and they thread it together, and they, what didn't make sense last week, when it's given to them again through the news, they somehow make it make sense to them. They go, and then a week later they go, oh no, but that does make sense. We do need to be doing that now. And I'll say to them, but last week when I told you that, you called me a conspiracy theorist, saying that the government would never do that. This week, you're calling me a conspiracy theorist because I'm not going along with the same thing that you objected to last week. So they can't even gauge within themselves to understand what they're thinking or feeling. They literally just live by instruction and have their complete view of the world perception managed.